Hello again, Athena's Gaming here with my TBC class picking guide, this time covering the Shaman. As before, the parameters we'll be using are boss DPS slash single target healing, overall raid DPS and raid healing, class and spec utility, PvP strength, overall desirability in raid, and my general thoughts. So the Elemental Shaman. They are an average single target damage with great range burst, and range burst is very useful on ad fights such as Lady Vash, so that is their niche. They are good to above average in AoE damage. They excel specifically against 3 target fights where they can get maximum chain lightning value, but don't sleep on their totems either. As the targets increase, they get less good at AoE, but still better than many other classes. They also bring a very good caster buff to their group, along with the very high Shaman utility. As far as PvP strength goes, they are pretty bursty, but they don't necessarily compete with the top tiers, and they have more bad matchups, but they do fit into several good comps and can be played at all levels. You will generally want at least one Elemental Shaman in your raid. Uh, in addition, you will always want 5, so how you settle between the 3 specs of your 5 depends on how much healing, casters, and melee damage you need, but you will generally always have at least one. Overall, they're a solid DPS caster that won't necessarily beat mages and warlocks of equivalent skill, but they have a niche in their high burst, and they have a lot of utility outside of their damage to cover that gap. Due to having really high hit from talents, I believe 9%, they start off the expansion very strong and then generally taper off relative to the other classes. Now, they still get stronger, it's just that the other classes will cover up their missing hit as they get more gear, whereas you will get less benefit. Their unique spec utility is Totem of Wrath, which is 3% spell hit and spell crit to their entire party. This is an amazing buff, especially if you can be assured that there is an Elemental Shaman in your group, because it means that you can reduce your reliance on getting hit from gear. If your hit cap is 3% lower, that's more stats that you can put into spell power, that's more stats that you can put into spell crit, and overall this is a big damage increase. Additionally, there's a new totem, Wrath of Air, which is 100 spell damage. This is new, it's not specific to Elemental Shaman, but it is a bonus that they can give from the previously not very used air totem, and of course Bloodlust slash Heroism. The Enhancement Shaman is average to high single target damage, especially in later tiers when they can get armor penetration. Their cleave damage is relatively low. They don't have a cleave move like a warrior or a rogue. They do have their totems, but they generally won't be as potent as, say, an Elemental Shaman. They have very high class and spec utility, mostly focused around physical damage buffing, and moderate PvP strength. They don't have necessarily as many comps that they can fit into as the top tier melee classes, but they can still, perform decently well in the right circumstances. And once again, they're very desirable in raids due to their buffing potential paired with decent damage. So overall, a very solid class. They offer good damage and very high utility, which is what you want out of your melee DPS. The main focus in raids will be on buffing your group and totem twisting if you're in a melee group. Now, if you are in the hunter group, you may be able to get away with not totem twisting, but otherwise, you shouldn't sleep on the fact that they can heal, cleanse, and ranged interrupt when the situation presents itself, and those things can be huge for your raid. Their unique utility is Unleashed Rage, which gives everyone in the party 10% attack power. This is especially good in hunter groups because it applies to the pets. And Improved Weapon Totems, which is a additional attack power bonus for your melee DPS getting Wind Fury Totem. As far as your class utility, you have Wind Fury and Grace of Air, much like in Classic. They are relatively unchanged, just leveled up to the new level, and grant much what you would expect additional damage for classes that scale off of either attacks or agility. and of course Bloodlust and Heroism. Restoration Shaman. Now one's a little bit different, but actually much the same as Classic. Their single target healing is generally considered pretty moderate to low, but their raid and AoE healing is very good. They have very high class utility with moderate spec utility, and their PvP strength is moderate. They're a fine healer. They can be used in several offensive team comps, and they generally lack the defense ability of some of the other healers. They aren't as escapable as a druid and have to hard cast their heals, but can still offer a lot of damage, CC, and interrupt from their totems and shocks. So overall, decent PvPer, not necessarily competitive with the highest tiers, but not strictly garbage. And once again, very desirable in raids. You'll want 5 shamans in every raid. If you are good on healing, then likely one of your healing shamans will be swapped for a damage variant, so that can work against you. But you'll almost always want at least one resto shaman. As far as your unique spec utility, you have Manatide Totem, which, once again, very good, and Earth Shield, their new spell, which is the first instant cast reactive heal outside of using Nature's Swiftness, and, or I should say proactive heal outside of Nature's Swiftness. And this means that now you have something where if things don't need to be healed and you don't have an Earth Shield up, you can use your global cooldown to get healing in the future, which is really something that can help boost your throughput. In addition, you have access to all of the regular shaman utility like poison and disease cleansing, the healing power totem, the grounding and tremor totems, and bloodlust and heroism. So in summary, Shaman are one of the most desirable classes in TBC due to their totem utility and the fact that they have 3 viable specs: melee, caster, and healer. While they aren't necessarily the top performer in any one of those roles, they do reasonably well, and their utility basically necessitates that you bring one along. In PvP, they are definitively a mid-tier PvP class, but that doesn't mean they can't be viable or work well. They just require more setup and have some harder counters. As far as getting raid spots, Alliance Shamans will probably have a very easy time getting a raid spot, given there are generally 5 Shaman spots. Horde, maybe a little bit less so, considering we have lots of Shamans, but if those Shamans are interested in re-rolling, then you will still need the most of any singular class of them. If you are looking for a class and you aren't sure of what you want to play, whether a caster, or melee, or healer, then this is a really great class to play because you can flex between the ones that your raid needs, and then when you are picked, you can be the one that you need and get a raid spot. So just let me know, is there anything you agree or disagree with, anything I could improve with the video? I'm always happy to hear your comments. You can leave them below, and thank you for watching.